All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our webinar today. My name is Dhruv Singhal, and I am the founder of Open Gears, as well as a senior at Mattia Valley High School in Aurora, Illinois. And it's fantastic to see that you are interested in listening to the speaker today. Once again, I hope that you take advantage of this event to learn more about mechanical engineering and how you can grow as a leader and develop professionally. Figuring out what I wanted to do in the future was a problem for me personally, and by continuing this Open Gears initiative, I hope to alleviate your problems and doubts as well by providing you with an array of unique experiences from our community. In fact, let me share with you that even my future goals and desires have been heavily influenced from all these webinars that I've hosted thus far. So I can guarantee you that you will learn something new and insightful through this webinar today. Again, please check out our library of recorded webinars on YouTube to hear about other fields that might excite you. If you're interested in topics like computer science, medicine, biomedical engineering, drone technology, or any other fields out there in STEM, we have it all. We have college students and professionals discussing those experiences. So take advantage of those recorded webinars so you can learn something new. And the link to our YouTube channel is on our website, theopengears.com. Now, I would like to welcome our speaker today, Marcus Laney. Marcus is a global product manager at A-Laser and a master's student at UC Berkeley pursuing mechanical engineering. He is a founder and leader of a student organization which he grew from 10 to 300 members, and winner of Purdue University and the American Society of Mechanical Engineers' most prestigious awards for positively impacting thousands of students. Before we start this webinar, I want to remind again that please do not hesitate to ask questions, whether you decide to unmute or write them in the chat. Thanks once again, Marcus, for taking time out of your busy schedule to help inspire students to pursue your STEM career. And without further ado, please give Marcus your undivided attention and a warm virtual round of applause.
Appreciate it, Rob. Yeah, thanks for that warm welcome. Everybody watching, really appreciate you tuning in. Our big goal today is you're a 6th to 12th grader, and you need to start looking ahead to not only getting into college, but specifically, what do you want to do at college, and how can you start preparing for that now? And I'm going to start walking through some of my background. Me and Rob went to high school kind of in a similar area, northwest suburbs of Chicago, and how I was able to take some of these experience and other extracurriculars and be able to determine what I wanted to do moving forward. So just a little bit about me. Currently, I'm a master's student at UC Berkeley, studying mechanical engineering with a concentration in product design and product management. I'm working with a company called A-Laser doing product management, and I founded the speaking business entitled Marcus's Morning Minute. Before that, I just graduated in May from Purdue University, where, like Drew said, I was fortunate to grow our chapter of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers from 10 to 300 members, won a few cool awards, but most importantly, had internships in many fields outside of mechanical engineering. And we're going to talk about how it's going to be important for you to, in order to figure out what you want to do, to first figure out what you don't want to do. And then before that, I attended St. Viator High School in Arlington Heights. So what our agenda today is going to look like is we're just going to run through almost chronologically. We're going to start with high school, what my college application process looked like, how I started gaining some of this professional experience. Now I'm in grad school, and then the Q&A we're going to run throughout the entire presentation. So the format, feel free to drop questions, cut me off, turn on your mic, start chatting. It's going to be a whole lot more fun if it's a conversation than if it's us just presenting. And I'll be happy to stick around afterwards after we cut the recording for any specific questions. Sweet, so let's get rolling. So first I went to high school at St. Viator, and something big that you start seeing when you get later in high school is everybody's chasing these leadership positions. And so it's really important to understand that while it is a title and it's going to look good in your resume, what are you actually doing with a leadership position? It's one thing to be a figurehead, it's a whole other thing to help a team elevate. So I'm just going to run through some of my activities I did throughout high school, how involved I was in them, and where that took me today. So for athletics, I was captain of both our swimming and volleyball teams, both things I've been doing for years before high school. And those were some of those big time commitments. And I know colleges always like to look at your athletics because they see that you're well-rounded. It's great to be a nerd. It's great to get all great grades. But if you're only focused on school, they're not going to want you because they're looking to really build up a strong class and not just a full group of nerds. So I had 2 on the athletic side and a few more on the academic side, with academics being my number 1 while I was in high school. I definitely focused heavily, and I was a big time math nerd back in high school. I'm still in engineering, so I didn't venture very far away from it. But so I was involved with our math team, Mu Alpha Theta, which is the Math National Honor Society, the math club, where we were teaching concepts to people throughout the school, science club, where we were building crazy contraptions and trying to test and compete it, student council, where I think just about anybody is involved with one at their own school. Then our academic team, I was a retreat leader and also in the scholars program in high school. And now when you're looking at all these involvements, you have to think that it's not just one thing that you're doing that might really set you apart. It's not just one activity, but it's so much of the impact you're able to have through any of the activities that's going to help you set yourself apart. And I think this next aspect is really lost for a lot of people, and that people only think about it as you have athletics, you have academics, and that's going to make you a strong applicant. But one more important thing is service. And so I did a good bit of volunteering back through high school. I had what we call what was Link Crew. It's like the orientation program, the Kairos Leader, which is both academic and service, but also volunteering. So the picture you see here is at a memory care facility for people with Alzheimer's and dementia. And it's with actually one of my favorite residents. Her name is Josephine. And I had volunteered over 1,000 hours at this memory care facility throughout high school. And this is one of those things where that taught me so much about what I wanted to do with my own life. And you would have never expected it, because volunteering with people with dementia is about as far from engineering as you can get. So this is another great aspect to really start thinking about. You have Druff, who founded Open Gears. What an awesome initiative. You have other people who are building up community initiatives, others who are getting involved in community service. And it's just a way to show that you're caring about others and not just caring about yourself through your own athletics and academics. And here's a great laundry list for everyone. It's all the AP classes I took in high school, just so we can get a good idea of kind of the curriculum you might need to really set yourself ahead when you get to college. And an important thing is funny, me and Drove were talking about it before we started recording, is just how important AP classes are. And it is tough when you're 17, 18-year-olds to really fathom how important some of these are. But because I was able to take all these AP classes and specifically do well enough on the exams, I was able to graduate from college in 3 years instead of 4. So this is one of those things, I get it. It's at the end of your school year, you're getting tired, but if there is any time to lock in and put in effort, it's when AP exam season, or IB, depending where you are, comes around. And just some overall advice, you're going to hear a lot of things, and I'm giving you my 2 cents, is to always take your AP credits. Some people in college say like, oh, go retake Calc 1, go retake Calc 2. I think that's ridiculous, because classes in college are so much more difficult than they are in high school. And if you already have the knowledge, there's no need to set yourself back by retaking courses. And now when you're starting to look ahead, you finally took all these AP exams, looking ahead to college, you need to get really clear on what's important to you. And so here's a few factors that I personally considered while checking out colleges. And you need to be real with yourself, because the only way to figure out what you're looking for is to find something and to know what you're looking for. And if you're lying to yourself and thinking either you want to be too social or you want to be this total academic in college, you have to kind of understand what balance you're trying to find. So some of the important ones is the major, school size, cost, location, and prestige. Those are ones that I definitely heavily considered, but maybe you're going to start looking into things like clubs, Greek life, do they have combined programs? And all of these should factor into your decision, but none of them in specific should cause your decision to go one way or another. And then after you have your priorities straight and you know, for example, what matters most to you. So for example, I went to Purdue with that gorgeous picture right there. And I knew that I wanted a strong engineering program. And one of the big things I liked about Purdue was that engineering was the focus of the school, and that it's known as an engineering school. And so everybody's going to have different reactions when they find out these facts, but to me, that was a huge turn on. And then once you have all this information, what do you do as engineers? You go make spreadsheets and you go figure out the information from Google. And a huge one is go talk with people and ask them to be honest with you. If somebody tells you a whole half-hour call, only amazing things about the university, you should probably start questioning, because there's so many things that you won't like about specific universities and things you wish you could change. And those are really the nuggets of wisdom that you want to know in order to best make your decision. So let's say you already Googled, you have this list of priorities. What do you do next? Well, you have to go tour the college. You can go virtual, but obviously if you can go in person, that would be great. So here are the big tips of go during a school day. I was really fortunate that we had a couple random days off, all those crazy holidays you have back in high school. And me and my family would be able to take a trek to a college that was in driving range. And when you're there during the school day, you're really able to get the vibe of campus. And your whole goal is, people often think it's, can I see myself here? And like, you're not, like, the heavens aren't going to open up and you're not going to get struck by lightning. Like, this is the college I'm meant to be at. You're just looking that it's not a no. If you get a bad vibe, okay, you can scratch that college, but it's probably not likely that you're going to get this incredibly positive vibe. And when you get to campus, try and meet with somebody from your major. For example, being involved in mechanical engineering, we try to meet with engineers, or when the tour guides would tell us their majors, we'd always try and get in the group of the mechanical engineer. And you really want to have your questions straight and have your background knowledge of the colleges before you go. You shouldn't be going and then asking anything that can be found on Google, because then you're wasting your own time, your own trip. So when you prepare and have your questions straight and really dive in and make the most of the opportunity, you're going to be able to learn a lot about this college. So let's say you just found these colleges that you think might be the best ones for you. And now you're trying to write out these applications, because it is application season. And my big thing is that you want to be remembered as that kid who. You got to think, for example, Purdue's reading like over 100,000 applications. And how are you going to stand out? There are a lot of kids that have, for example, taken a bunch of AP classes, been presidents and captains of their clubs, done community service. But what's your edge? What's really going to make them, like, when they go home that night, like, remember you? And then you have to be interesting and unique and bring in other aspects about you. And so it all comes into the essay. And your first thing is, you might think you have this really unique life experience, but you probably don't. So like, a couple of big things that I know you should never write about is that your service trip to some country and you thought you were going to help them, but those people really helped you. Okay, boring, banal, everybody writes about it. And it's the same with music. People say about, they learned how to play an instrument and that really changed their life. There's great ways you can spin both of these, but you have to think you need a unique experience not found with other people. So I really try to send mine, and my whole essay compared me to Sunny Side Up eggs. I was in this big phase. I was swimming. I was playing volleyball. I was eating like 2-3 eggs every morning. Really like my Sunny Side Up eggs. And I tried to find this cute way to compare me to each step in the process of making Sunny Side Up eggs that had some success in some schools, less success in other schools. But that was my way to really put myself out there and try and be known. And another big thing is always utilizing your summers. And it's really easy, to go hang out at the pool, to not do much over the summer. But when you make the most of it and you show your gumption that you want to learn, you want to study, you want to grow, colleges appreciate it and reward it. So one of the great experience I had was Purdue's Seminar for Top Engineering Prospects. It's this camp for students that just got out of junior year of high school at Purdue, and you learn about all the different engineering majors at Purdue. And you can see my design team here. We built a roller coaster, learned physics, did a lot of civil engineering with it. And that's where I gained a better sense of what engineerings did I not want to do. And then I had much less to choose from for what I did want to do. And so when you're applying, this is one big quote that always stood out to me. And it goes back to like, what's your edge and how are you standing out? It's that colleges don't just want diverse students, they want a diverse student body. So if you are, for example, the best in the world at yo-yoing, you're going to be more interesting than somebody that's just well-rounded. So as much as we're all trying to be well-rounded and be strong applicants, you need to have the like 1 or 2 things that just sets you apart and that you're branding yourself fully on. So like when I was back in college or back in high school, it was a lot of my volunteer service and how much I've learned and grown from working with people with dementia. And everybody's going to have their own, but you have to think, what's just so unique to you that colleges will want you and will want to see it. And it's tough to figure out what's your edge. And there's a nice simple way that I learned is in this book entitled The Nibble Theory. And it's really important because first you have to know what you're good at in order to figure out what your brand is. And so the first thing that you can do is you need to figure out what are your skills. And skills are things you can learn. And so it's everything from your sports to your coding to things you do in school to relationship building. That's anything that with enough time and energy, you can develop and become good at. But now you have to combine them with your strengths. And those are things innate to you. So things that you cannot learn, no matter how much time you spend developing these skills, they are specific to you. So like you'll see engineers who are like, I love building with Legos. Nobody taught them just how to learn to love Legos. You never saw people that learn to love community service. And when you find the intersection of your skills and your strengths, that's when you're able to figure out what is your edge. And then finally, what do you do if you don't know your edge? And it's all about doing things. It's great to read, it's great to talk with people, but there's no substitute just for doing things and then pivoting as you continue to grow and develop. So like when I was volunteering, that had no correlation to engineering when I started. But by the time I ended, I really saw how I might want to connect my volunteering with my engineering skills or with other aspects of my life. So by doing things, by putting yourself out there, that's how you're going to be able to figure out your edge. Okay, so we just kind of covered high school and almost getting to college. So before we plunge into college, mechanical engineering, and product management, do we have any big questions that we're looking to get cleared up?
So far, what you presented, Marcus, is awesome. Like, I loved how you went through the process of talking about, what colleges look for and how we can set our, how we can, position ourselves strategically so that, we're primed for the best, outcome possible. So you must have toured Purdue before deciding to apply there, right?
Yeah. So when I went, very thankful for my family. They were incredibly helpful as I was touring colleges. We made the spreadsheet, we worked through it. And we had some very pointed questions. Like I'll get to in a little later, but like Purdue has a couple of unique programs that I wanted to know about. And so we get there and you just bombard people with questions. And you can't be, shy about it. So when you get there, make the most of it. And after touring Purdue, it wasn't a no. So that's why I went and did the engineering camp at it. And then Purdue still was not a no. And then from there, I was like, okay, I'll apply. And it was actually, I went on a second visit after I got in to determine if I wanted to do the honors college or not, where it really sealed the deal of why I should go to Purdue.
Okay. And can you explain a little bit about the honors college, what that is, or is that something you're going to get to later?
Yeah. We can jump on it now. So this is something big for everybody in high school. Like, don't get me wrong, I was an honors kid in high school. But you need to think what's going to bring you the most value when you get to college. And that might not be the honors college. It depends on your specific school. And when I started at Purdue, there were two big programs I was looking at. The first was the honors college, and the second was this EPICS program, which I'll talk more about later. But I realized that the honors college was simply more work for a little distinction on your degree. And to me, that was not as valuable as trying out this whole new experience, which turned out incredibly beneficial. So something important for high school students to remember is don't get so caught up on being the smartest, but being the honors kid that you restrict yourself from starting up a whole lot of new opportunities.
Gotcha. And we just had a question in the chat too. So one of our attendees wants to know, what do you do to relate the different things that you do back to engineering if they don't seem to relate? So if you have all these different things, how do you tie back into engineering? Yeah,
an important thing is if you're holding engineering in the back of your head while you do anything, you're going to start seeing opportunities. And so you gain these insights. So for example, when I was volunteering at the memory care facility, I was I would wonder if I could build products or what I could physically make that would make these people's lives easier. And as you're talking to them, as you're interacting with them, you get these insights of wow, it's really difficult for them to sit alone, or it's really difficult for people to help them stand, or it's really difficult that people are feeling lonely. So you find out all these different opportunity spaces And that's where your engineering brain starts kicking in. And how can I solve this problem as an engineer and do things scientifically that will impact and positively change other people?
Gotcha. Awesome. Yep. Yeah, and again, once again, to our audience, feel free to keep typing any questions. Let's try to make this as interactive as possible.
Sweet. All right. Well, oh yeah, you're all welcome. Yeah, thanks for that one. All right, so we're gonna keep rolling. And a big thing, the big question we're here is why mechanical engineering and why at Purdue? So mechanical engineering, the first thing you ask somebody why they do mechanical engineering, they will tell you the exact words of it's broad. And don't get me wrong, because I was the exact same. But what does broad mean? And first, broad means that you can go do any of the other engineering fields because you're going to have expertise in it. And now I'm going to go through some of the lies people say, and I'm going to give it to you guys straight. Broad usually means people just don't know what they want to do. But we need to take it broad as you can go into fields like business, like data science, computer science, or any of the other engineering fields. And it prepares you well to pivot because you can inject yourself into multiple different industries. Another important aspect is that I'm not going to lie, it's highly regarded. People know what the mechanical engineering curriculum is like. And this is the problem with there's a lot of new majors popping up, or majors that don't have the same prestige as some of these older engineering majors, is that they sound great, but you're not really learning things that industry knows about. So for example, there's a lot of like engineering management majors, or like even some industrial engineering majors, where depending on the school, they might not have the same weight that other majors have. And so even if you might align better with industrial engineering, like I think I currently do, you might still want to consider doing something like mechanical engineering, honestly, because it's harder and more well-regarded that can take you other places. And you can always go back to doing one of those other engineerings later. And then another aspect is that when you look at, like I was looking at who are successful people in companies and said they're usually mechanical engineers or they're in computer science. Because that's kind of where the world is going. And I was thinking if I ever wanted to get into that leadership aspect, mechanical engineering could be really strong for me. And another big one is, do you get minors when you go to school? And you have to really think, why are you getting a minor? And so for me, I got minors in economics and intercultural communication. And I wanted that to show like my business sense and that I wasn't just a technical mechanical engineer. Now looking back, I don't really know if I needed them. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed both of them. Like I actually found the classes interesting in them. But when you're getting involved in extracurriculars, when you have these internships, they might not be as beneficial as some people think. And now that I'm at Berkeley, something else I'm seeing is everybody's trying to get these double majors. They're really supplementing, there's a lot of popular ones like computer science and data science or computer science and economics. And it's great. But I think you have to get really clear on why are you doing more than one and what can't you get by doing clubs, doing internships, and getting jobs. And now specifically for Purdue, I thought it was cool that Purdue has this first year engineering program where you don't choose your major until your third semester. And that's interesting because I had a good idea I wanted to do mechanical engineering, but I wasn't 100% certain. And by not having this pressure to choose while I was still in high school, I felt that I could explore more and learn from my peers, and that's how I landed on mechanical engineering. I talked about how it's prestigious and close to home. It's like a 3-hour drive. It's one of those where it's close enough to go home, but not close enough that your parents will surprise you. I'm sorry, because I think my parents are actually on this call right now. And it's also that price is important. I like the big school, the social aspects, the games. You just like meeting people from all over. And then one final thing was the combined 4+1 master's program. So you do a 4-year undergrad with a 1-year master's. And you can already start taking master's classes in undergrad. And an important aspect of that is, if you want to get a master's degree, this could save you months. This will save me 9 months if I had stuck with this program as opposed to getting a 3-semester master's, which I ended up not doing, but it can save you a lot of time and even be cheaper. And now, so once you get to Purdue, once you figure all this out, You got to think, how are you going to maximize college? And it's like we talked about with how do you choose your majors and how do you just figure out your path? And there's only one way to figure your stuff out. It's by doing things. There's no amount of reading and talking and researching that will be as important as going out there and like building something and putting yourself out there and trying to figure out if this path is right for you or not. So when you're out there trying to find your path, I think about it in what I call the diverging converging model. So in high school, you get there, you're wide-eyed, you're 14 years old, you're like, wow, there's so many different avenues to explore. Do I want to do these sports? What friends am I going to make? Do I want to go do the plays? Do I want to do the productions? Do I want to get involved in more academics? You're putting your energy all over the place. Junior, senior year, you kind of have your footing. You really know what you're about by the end of high school. And that's when you're able to just fully direct your energy into the things that are most important. So I knew, to me, most important was my 2 sports, my few academic clubs that I was really big on, and my community service. And that's where my energy went. But now you have to change your mindset when you get back to college, and that you have to go back to knowing nothing. You have to go explore. You have to go check out all these different avenues, as that's how you're going to be able to figure out what's right and what's not right for you. So for example, in my first month at Purdue, I went to over 50 club callouts. For anybody that doesn't know, a club callout is the very first meeting of a student organization. And because I went to these 50 club callouts, I went from all these ideas to just about 10 that I liked enough to go once more. And from there, I just joined like 3 to 4 clubs. And after I figured out what was best for me, I was able to direct my energy. And then I only ended up staying with 2 clubs that I just loved and had an excellent time with. So remember the diverging, converging of put a lot of energy out there, try a lot of different things, figure out what works, and then just go big in those specific things. And so I'm just going to briefly walk through my college journey and kind of how I figured out mechanical engineering and what more is for me after college. And so I came to Purdue with, a somewhat poor engineering of I want to do mechanical engineering because it's broad. And this is when I joined that program I briefly talked about earlier, entitled EPICS, Engineering Projects and Community Service. And if anybody's thinking about Purdue, I cannot recommend this program enough because it found a way to combine my service with my engineering. And so it was through this project, or through these projects, that I was able to gain the leadership skills and find project experience that helped me get to the next level and even land internships right after freshman year. And then from there, this is what I had said. I joined clubs, I dropped them, and you have to be okay with quitting. You have to be okay with not finding what you want to do immediately, and then you can find where to put your energy elsewhere. And this is another big thing. You got to start applying to jobs so early. I mean, I'm talking like September, October is when you start looking for jobs in undergrad. And my goal was just to get one online, just shoot applications anywhere. And I got less than spectacular results. So COVID hits and I start my video series, which now turned into my Triple M business and just networking for fun. And this is when I came across a graduate from Purdue, and he actually offered me an internship at his startup. And so I worked with Rover Agriculture as a mechanical engineering and marketing internship. And here's a few of the things I was able to do. I was able to design an arm for their autonomous robots used in soil sampling. So how do farmers know how good their soil is? They actually have robots go through, they pull out samples of soil, they send it to a lab and figure it out. By doing this autonomously, you're saving farmers hours and hours of having to go through their entire field. But because they were a startup, they gave me the really unique opportunity of trying out my hand at marketing. And as an engineer, I was like, I don't know if marketing is really going to be for me. And turned out it was great. I love the social media aspect. I love putting the brand out there. And then I found a great way to combine those by leading technical case studies where we would perform root cause analyses on what actually is happening in the field and how can we leverage mechanical engineering in this product to fix it. So the mechanical part of this is that it's working on robotics. You're working on this autonomous software, but now I'm starting to have my horizons broadened for other aspects like marketing. So I come back to school and I get an internship with Rolls-Royce doing consulting. That was another kind of marketing project, where we were analyzing engine oil debris software. So this was, you need a technical background to understand how engines worked and how oil debris software worked, but it was very marketing that we were trying to improve the sales of the product. And it's when I finally became vice president of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, the club I spent a lot of my time in undergrad with. And this is important. It's when you're looking to join student organizations to really see how can you grow. It's one thing to join what you think is the best club. It's another thing to join the club that's going to help you become the best version of you. And I can't recommend that enough. Is like from day one to kind of see, are you looking up to the leaders? Do you like their mission and what energy they're bringing? Because that's going to be important down the road. And then I was fortunate to get through LinkedIn, start networking, and I lined up a summer internship with GW Electric in program management. And this is different than product management, and we'll get to that in just a second. And I was really excited about it, but I also had the opportunity to keep working with RogoAg, my first internship throughout the school year. And I was considering going back, and they said, you know, I'm not going to be able to do both mechanical engineering and marketing like I had done before. And I was like, okay, well, I want to do both of them. They said, well, you're not going to be able to. So let's say you graduate from Purdue and you come to work for us. Do you see yourself in a mechanical engineering role or a marketing role? I said I would see myself in a different company. So they let me go the next day, which is a very wise move on their part. And the next week, I actually found a new job with A-Laser, where I'm actually still currently at doing sales engineering. And so a big thing is like, what is sales engineering? And it's a little kind of the business side of engineering with sales and marketing. So what I would do with A-Laser is we're a precision laser cutting manufacturer, and companies would send me requests for quotes of if they want to get these precision parts cut out of a specific material like stainless steel, how much would it cost? So I would be the one designing their parts, uploading it through CAD and the CAM systems, and then telling them how much it's going to cost, what their lead time is, and working with them to try and give them the best deals possible. And another big one is that I was working with all the military grade equipment. So I had to be sure I went through all these certifications and that I was overseeing a product line driving a few million in revenue. And what I learned about this is that I liked the customer facing role. I liked interacting with people that just weren't inside the company, that just weren't other engineers. And so this is when I started learning, maybe I don't just want to do technical mechanical engineering or specifically marketing. I think I'm going to split the difference somewhere between the two. And then as a product or program manager at GW Electric, I was able to touch my hand in so many different things. Like I got into finance by automating some of their financial analysis calculations for things with net present values over $1 million. And that's cool because that's when I started thinking money is cool, not just because I want to make a lot, but because handling it is something that I'm also interested in. And then I was also able to do something more on the tactical side of understanding where their business is at right now by making these dashboards. It's a little bit of coding experience, but a little bit more of just how can you track data over time. And they gave me some great flexibility with the internship, and that they essentially said, we just want you to go find problems and solve it. So I worked in different aspects, including marketing, sales, mechanical engineering, product design, and finance throughout the internship. And that's where the program management and product management really come in, is that you're the liaison between the technical side of the company and the business side. And you have to go understand the customers, but also understand both of the groups that you're working with to best ensure that you're making a solution that everybody is happy with. And that's under budget. And then I get back to school and I become the ASME president, American Society of Mechanical Engineers. And I was also accepted into Purdue's 4+1 program, the 4-year undergrad and 1-year master's in mechanical engineering. And when I joined as ASME president, we were a little less than spectacular, but I had this vision of really helping people land their dream jobs and internships. And from a whole lot of marketing work, a whole lot of building out the club, we were able to grow from 10 to 300 members. I won a great award at Purdue. And this is when I started seeing, what if I'm also interested in this leadership or even startups? And that's how I started looking into Berkeley's Master of Engineering, the MEng program, where I'm currently at. And when you see it through this journey of each step, I would like overshoot. I started off as a real technical engineer, and then I got marketing experience. And I was like, whoa, marketing's a little too much on the soft side for me. Maybe I'm going to find the happy medium of sales engineering. And then I found product management, and now I'm finding like startups and this leadership aspect. And this is what I say when I mean do things. Try out different jobs, try clubs, try volunteering, and that's where you're going to find your greatest strengths. And just a little background in like, what do clubs look like in colleges? And so I started off as a design engineer. We were designing 3D printed acrostics that we were donating to people in Purdue's surrounding area. So that looked like a whole lot of designing. We're making physical acrostics that people who can't afford to play lacrosse can use to enjoy the sport. And then from there, because it was a small club, you can move quickly, which is one of the benefits of a smaller club. And I was able to start leading teams. I led this 3D printed lacrosse team, and I was also able to start leading the other teams our members had founded. And that's where I got a lot of my technical experience in. But when I switched to president, now is when I started wanting to get less on the technical side and more on the strategic and long-term leadership side. So when I became president, the team grew from 10 to 300 members, but one of my biggest accomplishments was founding this prosthetics team, where we were designing a prosthetic hand for one of our members' cousins in Italy who lost his hand in a meat grinder accident. And what's so interesting about this is that throughout my whole time in college, I'm always looking to combine engineering, leadership, and service. And so when opportunities like this come up, you jump on it. And so it was like our question earlier. It's like, how do you combine engineering with things that don't particularly relate to engineering? And it's by always making sure it's on your mind. And when you're thinking about it, you're going to see great opportunities. And you see the picture there I have on the right. That's my awesome executive team, which grew from 7 people to over 50 people while I was president. And a cool aspect of this is you get so much mentorship experience being in a club like ASME. So for anyone, considering in college, joining extracurriculars, that's where you're going to meet a really strong network of people. And it helps that they're all in your major, have taken your classes, and can tell you what professors to and not to take. And then as chairman of the board, that was my senior year. And I was really able to oversee the next generation of ASME's leaders. We won the best organization at Purdue award. And now I'm able to speak around the world to different clubs and organizations. And so when you see kind of this progression with ASME, you can see that you start off learning nothing. This is the diverging. And then you slowly keep converging. I thought it was technical, then I pivoted and I figured out it was leadership. And when you get involved in a student organization, you will learn so much more than you would just from your classes. And I might even say it rivals getting an internship. And so now, what am I up to? Just public speaking. I'm getting into product management. And I'm exploring more. And now that I'm in the Bay Area, I'm thinking, do I want to do startups, entrepreneurship? Do I want to get into venture capital? And I was fortunate, like Drew said at the beginning of the presentation, to get named ASME's #1 leader. And so I'm just going to finish it off. I have 2 big, I'd say separate groups of advice I'm going to give. I'm going to give one that's mainstream advice, and I'm going to give one that's not so mainstream advice. So here's my mainstream advice. Explore your interests outside your major. I mean, you saw me get outside of mechanical engineering, get into marketing. And then from there, that's where I bounced around, and figured out product management might be my best interest. And when you're exploring clubs, when you're trying to meet people, when you're trying to have new experiences, stop waiting on your friends to come with you. Like, don't wait on your friends to join clubs with you because you're never going to join them. If you like something, you need to go do it. And this is something big that I'm seeing mechanical engineering shift. It's that it's no longer just about how smart you are, but now it's that almost all these mechanical engineers can be social. And everybody needs to be better communicators. And what I found is when I got on LinkedIn, I started posting every day, I started making videos. That's when my leadership really started improving. That's when, when you can write effectively, when you convince somebody to back your idea, that is powerful. And that's something not a lot of mechanical engineers will have. The other big one is just stop complaining. When you talk to people at college, all they do is complain about some of their classes, about how little sleep they're getting, about what they're doing. If you complain less, you're going to have more time and more energy to do the things that actually matter. But so many people are focused on how hard everything is that they're not actually focused on what they can do to make life better. And then here's a big one. It said, are you actually an extrovert? Because I definitely thought I was when I went to college. And you're going to talk with people, you're enjoying it, but you have to understand the definitions of extrovert versus introvert. Is that an extrovert is a person that gains energy by being with people. And I was like, I'm not gaining energy by being with people. It's taking energy for me to go to these club call-outs, for me to go meet people. And that's why I figured out I was an introvert. And this is where you need to make sure you have your alone time and that you have your time spent with other people. And that goes into things like, how do you study best? Like, you actually study best in groups, because I know if I study in a group, I'm not getting any work done. I'm just going to talk with them. So by learning and coming to understand yourself, you're going to be able to best make the most of your college experience. And here's my final one. It's all my contrarian advice. And it's that you need to do more than you can handle. So when you come to college, you need to do more clubs than you can possibly handle, and because that's going to force you to limit it down. And what I've heard, I love this advice, is that your goal at the end of college is to have one academic club and one fun club. ASME was my academic club, and I was in a consulting club, which was my fun club. And from that, you're able to make fun connections, but you're also able to really develop your skills. Another big thing is, don't sit with your friends in new places. You're going to make some great friends. You're probably going to have people come from your high school that go to college with you. Don't be friends with them right away. Go make your own friends. Go start from scratch, because that's how you can go reinvent yourself and really open up your boundaries to grow. I love this advice. I forgot who gave it to me, but it's go hard in one class at a time. In high school, you're always trying to be like the best in every class. You're always trying to be the teacher's favorite. You always want a letter of recommendation from them. You just don't have that bandwidth in college. Like, it doesn't make sense for you to go to everyone's office hours unless you really need it. But if you have a class that you just love, I'm saying you go sit in the front row. You go get to know the professor, but you don't have to do that with everybody. Because when there's 500 people in a classroom, professors care about you way less than your teachers in high school do. So don't focus on giving every ounce of your energy in every class, so much as one class you're putting everything into and other classes that are still going as well. You have to start strategizing your recommendation letters early. Make sure you have an idea of what professors do you want, what industry people, and what are they going to write about. And here's a big one of like, it's okay if your professors don't like you. The professor's class is if you're not the biggest fan, you can go kind of sit a little farther back, go maybe multitask, and not put all of your time into something that isn't benefiting you. And that goes into my second last one. You should half-ass things. If you are putting 100% into everything you're doing, you're going to get burnt out, and you're not going to be able to figure out what you like doing the most. And when you get to college, networking is going to be the key to your success of just meeting people, having fun conversations, meeting your friends, meeting people in industry. And there's one thing that will help you set you apart all of your networking from other people. And it's the most important question in the conversation. And it's actually the first question. It's always the how are you? And if somebody ever asks, how are you? You should never say good, and you should never say tired. And those are the two things you'll hear when you go to a college campus. If you tell somebody how you are, if you tell them what's on your mind, you tell them what you're interested in, what you're doing that day, you're going to be able to build a much better relationship that's going to be high energy and that's going to be fulfilling for all those years to come. So thank you all for having me on. That was quite our presentation about mechanical engineering, product management, student leadership, and just the overall ideas and advice for what you should do when applying to and getting into college. So thanks a lot, Drew, for having me on, and hope to see all you guys soon.
Marcus, that was amazing. First of all, just like round of applause to you for all of your amazing accomplishments that you've done in Purdue and you know, just beyond college. You know, I was like following your journey along and seeing what you've been able to do with ASME and, you know, your internships and your other opportunities and all. It's fantastic, man. You know, hats off to you. It's like amazing what you're doing, and especially with your triple M adventures as well, and just giving those leadership advices for students as well. You know, it's fantastic what you're doing. Just a couple of things I was just curious about. You know, Purdue, like, you know, obviously Purdue is amazing engineering school. Were there any schools other than Purdue you were considering? Like, what drew you to Purdue specifically?
Yeah. So a big one, I liked the focus of engineering. Like, I liked that Purdue was an engineering school. And this might not be the same for everybody, but I liked that the resources go to the College of Engineering and that it is like you are popular if you're an engineer. When you go like a comparable school was like UW-Madison that I was looking at, and it came down, first of all, UW-Madison was 10,000 more than Purdue out of state for me. And it was also that UW-Madison's focus wasn't engineering. Yeah, they're a big school. Yes, they have a good program, but I liked that people cared about engineering. So that was a big part for me. I also like the big school vibe. I liked it being close to home, and I liked not having to choose my major until sophomore year.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Like Purdue, I think Purdue, their first year is the first year engineering, right? Where you just explore majors.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also that's a nice thing that, that Purdue has, that, you don't have to commit yourself to a major once you get in.
Very much so.
Explore it as well. And just some other couple things like, networking. When people think of networking, sometimes it brings a lot of anxiety that, oh, I'm putting myself out there in front of people and I have to actually talk about myself and all. What kinds of tips do you have about networking?
Yeah, a big thing is when you're just genuinely interested in the other person, it makes networking so much easier. And when you go in with the mindset of, I want to build a relationship, not the mindset of, I want to get something out of it. It's really easy like to reach out to somebody and be like, I want them to help me get a job. But your process should be is, I want to see if we're a fit, if we match, and then maybe you can go to that next stage after building relationships. So my biggest thing is like, be normal, have a fun conversation, be yourself. Don't be this like automaton of like, it is nice to meet you, and everything will work out well.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Like, especially for me personally, because, I volunteer outside of school.
Yep.
And, I'm in different clubs as well. So, it like takes time to, get adjusted to network and all.
Very much so.
Talk about some of the classes you've taken at Purdue. How has the classes been like in engineering?
Yeah, they're real standard. When you do mechanical engineering, I mean, all your classes are going to look the same around the country. Honestly, a lot of Purdue's classes were big. Like my calculus classes, one of my intro classes, I mean, like 500 people in a lecture hall is about an average size class. Mm-hmm. Sophomore year, they got to be about like 120. And then senior year, then we get to like, 30 or 40 people in a class. And that's something you have to consider, is I knew I had no problem sitting in a big lecture hall. But if you really want that like one-on-one time with the professor, you might want to look at some smaller universities. But specific class-wise, I took a couple interesting graduate classes while I was at Purdue. One of them was human-centered design, and another one was decision-making and engineering design. So like the second one was how do you apply behavioral economics to engineering design? And human-centered design is the whole design process of building for people. So you do get interesting classes. I did not take many like mechanical engineering electives that were undergraduate courses, just so I graduated early and really had to be intentional about only taking grad courses that would fit in well. But I also took some great economics courses, like my game theory class that I loved. I took a behavioral economics course. So there are classes outside that are definitely interesting.
Awesome. Yeah. I think one of our attendees actually just wanted to unmute and ask a question.
Sweet.
You want to go?
Hi. So I had a question about like college. So in terms of college, I've heard that you can like dual major in a lot of like fields. So do you think that it would be better to dual major in multiple related fields, so like mechanical engineering and computer science, or is it better to like focus on one and then further explore and venture into something else and learn about that, like you talked about your marketing and your mechanical engineering?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for that one. So a big purpose is you have to think, how common is it at your school? Like if you were to double major in mechanical engineering and computer science at Purdue, like almost good luck graduating in 4 years. It is very tough, and you might not have a life outside of school. But when you look at a school like Berkeley, people do that type of double majors much more often. So my first thing is look at the school and see how common it is there. And the second thing is you have to think, is it that you really want to be at the intersection of those two fields, or is it that you just can't choose between them? And in that case, maybe you do start with one, and then you figure out if you can add in one later. And not that it's a bad thing to have two majors. It can be very beneficial. And I've seen especially that ME and computer science combination can be real dangerous. But you have to think like specifically, are you willing to take all that many more classes for one more degree that maybe you could have figured out through an internship.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. Like we actually often miss that point. Like, a lot of the classes that we take, they literally can just be learned in on the job.
Yep.
So I personally never thought of it. So thanks for bringing that up. Was there any like motivation behind taking a master's in mechanical engineering?
Yeah, so very much that I wanted to have this technical expertise, but then combine it with this sense of business, entrepreneurship, and economics that could either help me launch a company or that can help me be like a really strong product manager. And depending on where you go to school and how fast you get your degree done, you might not have time to really dive deep in what you're interested in. Because a lot of mechanical engineering curriculum is just general. You don't often get concentrations in undergrad. So it's when you go to graduate school, that's when I'm focusing on only taking my product management classes that I'm fully interested in.
Gotcha. And that's all like in a master's in mechanical engineering, right?
Yes, this is the master's in mechanical engineering.
Okay. Are you planning on doing some MBA or some sort in that?
It's on the horizon. I don't know what the timeline would be. I'm not dying to do one just yet, but it can be on the horizon.
Yeah. I mean, it's awesome to have that business and technical skill set. Kind of gives you more of a edge in the sense that you have interdisciplinary knowledge
Yeah.
and kind of relate things together. And I think that ties well in leadership as well. That throughout your leadership experiences, you must have learned how to deal with people, how to deal with conflict, how to manage teams. What are some like of the most important qualities you think a good leader should possess or exhibit?
Yes. Yeah. So a big one is like first genuinely caring about people that you're around. Something kind of how I quantify it is when I was growing ASME and we were at about 150 members, I knew every member and I knew important things about all of them. And it's not easy to know the names of 150 people and know like some of the important parts of their life. But when you care and when people see that you do care, that's going to increase your buy-in. And a second one is that you have to be very comfortable making unpopular decisions. And because when you're in this leadership role, when you have the data that might support you going in one direction for another, you have to be okay dissenting from the crowd and showing why do you believe you should go one direction when it's popular to go another direction. So for example, one of my first moves as ASME president is I actually canceled our general member meetings, which is like the life force of your organization. And it was real unpopular, but only because other people were doing it. There was nobody was getting any value of it, but it was one of those things of we've been doing it for so long, we should keep doing it because everybody else does it. And so when you're able to challenge those assumptions and make some bold, as is considered a bold action, we had great success and more engagement because people weren't wasting their time at all with us. So I think being real with yourself and thinking where are you actually driving value while still being optimistic is key for your leadership. Another big thing is to make sure that the people around you are first that you're helping them develop. But if people around you aren't really trying to help you get to the next level, or if they're not aligned with your mission of the company, or of your startup, or of the club, it's okay to cut ties. It's okay to go find other people to make sure you aren't a fit and move on. And that's something similar to what, like if you have a friend for so long, but you don't even like them, the only reason you're friends is that you've just been friends for so long, it's time to move on. It's time to go find other people that you can really put your time and energy into that are going to make that positive ROI for you.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. It's like when you look at problems that you have to deal with, you have to think of it as like someone else, like kind of like a third party person just looking at the problem that make the decision. So it's like great that you brought that up.
Yes.
And go ahead.
No, I just think that's an awesome perspective that you have of it's really easy when you're in your own perspective to just be irrational and to add in so much of your own emotion. But when you zoom out and look at the larger picture, it's a lot easier to make decisions.
Right, exactly. And you talked a lot about the internships you've done. So someone wanted to know about like how do you go about finding and searching these internships and even getting them?
Yeah, obviously Google, you have like Indeed, you have all your job boards, but how I went about mine, there's really two big ways. I'm seeing a lot on the West Coast, people love the company name. So they're like, I will work at, for example, Google, and I will do whatever role. I took the opposite approach of like, I don't care what company I work at so much as I do this role. I'm super biased because I did it. I would recommend focus on the role. So for example, I knew I wanted something mechanical engineer. So I was only looking at like mechanical engineering titles. And then after I happened to get this marketing, then I was like, okay, I want to start looking at product and program management titles. And so when I was like locked in on product management titles, it was so much easier to find companies. And then, I actually liked the company. I made a list of the companies and I found one that I was like, I want this job. I like this company. I like the role. I like the people. I want the job. I got on LinkedIn. I reached out to over 100 people from the company, and it's a smaller company. So that was like 10% of the company. And only 3 people replied. But it was the hiring manager, the recruiter, and my interviewer. And those are the exact 3 people I needed. And so it's one of those where you have to, when you start reaching out to people, especially via LinkedIn, just to build the relationship and learn more about the job. That's why I've actually landed all my jobs. It's never been through an online application.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I think networking and LinkedIn is just, that I think it's just the driver behind, getting these jobs and getting these internships. It's this like open platform where you just go send a connect invite and you start talking to them. So what kind of tips do you have about LinkedIn as well, like for students who are interested in trying to start a LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, well, you have to bring me back for a whole nother presentation on that. But no, so in seriousness, so like if you're a student, especially a high school student, I wish I got on LinkedIn earlier. But literally, it's like every other social media profile. You go make one. It's a little more professional. Don't show me anything crazy about what you and your friends did last weekend. But you make the social media profile, and over 800 million people have LinkedIn's from every company around the world. And what you do here is you put in your information, you make a little bio about yourself, and then from there you can just start reaching out to people. You can start creating content and you can start making connections to build your network. And what that's going to do is essentially give you free access to talk with anybody around the world. Like, think if you could go to any CEO's door, knock on their door and be like, hey, can I ask you a question? Right? They would have the police throw you off their property. But on LinkedIn, it's totally normal. So my best thing is you guys are all geniuses. You're all Gen Z. You know how to make a social media profile the same way you built all of your others, but you can go reach out to cool people. And it's like sliding in somebody's Instagram DMs without it being weird.
Yeah, of course. You have to be professional about LinkedIn, not like, you just try to send connect invites to like the Fortune 500 CEOs. But like, once again, I'll just open up to the audience. If you have any more questions, feel free to share them with us. But I'll leave it with my final question. The question I ask always at every webinar. You've probably reiterated this so many times in your presentation, but just to reiterate one more time, what is your biggest piece of advice for students today?
If my slide with 2 words on it wasn't enough, my biggest one is just do things. That's it. That like they can be somewhat related to what you want to do. They can be unrelated, but put yourself out there, put your time, energy, and resources into something. And whether it be a club, whether it be building friendships, whether it be networking, your academics, like do something with your time. Stop scrolling. Stop wasting your time on things that aren't bringing you value. Go do something with your time and you'll figure out exactly where you want to end up.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome tip that, time is precious. Like they say, time is money. So you have to use it as wisely as possible. And, you have to think about how every minute is kind of positively benefiting you.
Yes.
And, once again, Marcus, it was an awesome presentation. I loved how you narrated your journey from, high school and doing all these kinds of leadership positions and how you kind of restarted your exploration mindset in college. And then you began to explore engineering and do all these internships and networking opportunities. And then you specialized in mechanical engineering and then dove into this awesome leadership position and won so many awards with that. And now finally, you're in a business and tech role, which kind of merges your 2 interests. It's an awesome path. And just, if everyone here can give Marcus a virtual round of applause, it'd be amazing. It was awesome to have you and share your experiences. And, they're really unique pieces of advice you brought up, and I'm sure that that they will be really helpful to somebody who's just kind of struggling to figure out what to do in the future and how to get from point A to point B. So
Yeah.
once again, Marcus, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
I wish you the best in your endeavors at A Laser and in your degree at Berkeley.
Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me. And for anybody else, feel free to reach out and we can chat. But thanks so much.